Victor Hugo once said, "When fate hands us a sour lemon, it is so that we may try to turn it into a sweet glass of lemonade." The Hunchback of Notre-Dame is the lemon Victor Hugo used to prepare for us a drink of fate. But its taste is not sweet at all. Indeed, it is full of bitterness. Drawing as well from a Greek word meaning fate, he wrote this masterpiece. Like a tragedy, The Hunchback of Notre-Dame shatters the dream of the most radiant kind of love and makes us understand that there are 3 truths about love we should know as early as possible. More than 100 years have passed. In a literary world that never lacks masterpieces and great masters, there is still one book that remains firmly among the world's top 10 classics. That book is the classic romantic novel, The Hunchback of Notre-Dame by Victor Hugo, the greatest French literary giant of the 19th century. The Hunchback of Notre-Dame is a story of beauty and the beast that has been widely passed down to this day. Over more than a century, there have been countless stories of beauty and the beast. I do not know whether this story might make people feel tired of that pattern, but for the moment, please set aside the romantic love story between a beauty and an ugly man, because The Hunchback of Notre-Dame is not a pure love story. It is more like a painting of the real world, portraying the strange inner thoughts of human beings. In The Hunchback of Notre-Dame, we see the opposing sides of life: morality and desire, ugliness and sublimity, struggle and helplessness. Through the 3 emotional relationships of the girl Esmeralda, the author pieces together a great mirror reflecting the civility, selfishness, and greed in human nature. People often say, "Love itself is simple, but the human heart is far too deceitful." How can we develop a fuller worldview about life, love, or relationships? Better, perhaps, to read and feel stories in classic works that portray human reality, so as to bring more light and clarity to ourselves. Just as the psychologist Adler once said, maturity is not understanding everything, but seeing through human nature. And we need to know that behind love, there is always our true nature. When you read this book, you can see clearly the naked truth of life, see through the truths in emotional relationships from different angles, and come to understand how one should love and how one should live. Beneath that skin there may be 1,000 masks. In the square before Notre-Dame, amid enthusiastic cheers and shimmering firelight, a beautiful young girl dances gracefully to the rhythm of the drum. Her name is Esmeralda, a girl who supports herself by street dancing. From Esmeralda radiates a fiery passion for life, making it hard to believe that she carries such a tragic and difficult fate. When she was very small, Esmeralda was kidnapped and torn away from her loving mother. She grew up wandering from place to place, yet never once complained about fate. On the contrary, Esmeralda became warm-hearted, kind, and beautiful. Many young men pursued her, but Esmeralda gave her whole heart only to Captain Phoebus. Their meeting is a classic case of the hero saving the beauty. In Esmeralda's mind, Phoebus is the prince on a white horse, sword in hand, noble and gallant. Because her love is so deep and her passion so intense, she is always ready to grant every request Phoebus makes. Even when he calls her out to the outskirts in the middle of the night, she does not hesitate. One day, when she goes with Phoebus to a little inn, the sweet and blissful atmosphere makes her lose herself, and she confesses, "To become your wife would be my greatest pride." But who would have expected that after hearing this, Phoebus would reply in a cold voice, "Things are very good as they are, why should we marry?" In truth, Phoebus desires only Esmeralda's beauty. He does not cherish her in the least. When Esmeralda tries to ask more about this, a figure suddenly leaps from the darkness, stabs Phoebus, and flees. Seeing Phoebus writhing in pain in a pool of blood, Esmeralda faints. Yet when she awakens, all the guilt is laid upon her. The cruel court uses criminal law to force her confession and sentences her to death. But, rather than trying to defend herself, she is more concerned about Phoebus's safety. And yet, even until she is taken to the gallows, she receives neither news nor rescue from Phoebus. In fact, Phoebus is perfectly fine. After learning that Esmeralda has been accused, he simply chooses to ignore it and leisurely goes away to amuse himself with other women. The painful truth is that, until the moment Esmeralda dies, she never realizes that the perfect lover in her heart is nothing but a vile, greedy, and dishonest man. There is a saying, "The sky may be measured, the earth may be measured, but in the end, the human heart cannot be predicted." Do not use your own feelings to measure the hearts of others. Do not use the short span of your life to test love. And do not think that just because you love someone sincerely with all your heart, they will respond to you in exactly the same way. Because in love, too many people wear masks, hiding greed and selfishness. No matter how deeply you love, never place your whole life in someone else's hands. Always leave yourself a way out, a path for yourself. Behind passionate love lies the utmost selfishness. At Notre-Dame, there is a famous priest named Claude Frollo. Though still young, this archdeacon is talented, highly learned, discreet, and trusted by the church. He is seen as a symbol of near absolute asceticism. Whenever he hears the rustle of a woman's skirt passing by, Claude immediately pulls his hood down to cover his eyes. Even when summoned by a royal princess, he hesitates and refuses. What impresses others most is that although Claude was born into a noble family, he lives simply and humbly and brings goodness to the poor. Like Quasimodo, a disabled, abandoned, ugly child so hideous that no one dares come near him, Claude disregards all opinions, takes Quasimodo into the cathedral, raises him, and turns him into the bell ringer. Or Gringoire, an orphan wandering the streets all year long, Claude not only helps him, but personally teaches him to read and write, enabling him to reverse his fate from an illiterate drifter into a poet. Victor Hugo praised Claude as having a benevolent soul. And yet, at the age of 35, this admirable priest accidentally sees the beautiful Esmeralda and is at once captivated by her graceful dancing and her great dark eyes. Claude becomes trapped in the mire of love and cannot escape. The ascetic faith he once followed collapses instantly. But no matter what, Esmeralda does not love Claude and always tries to avoid him. Claude grows so despondent that he can only stand at a distant street corner or secretly watch from the top of the bell tower, trying to soothe the pain of his hidden love. Not long after, when he hears that Esmeralda is about to marry, Claude is driven mad with jealousy. Terrified that he is about to lose the woman he loves, he incites the hunchback Quasimodo to abduct Esmeralda in the middle of the night. Unexpectedly, a knight appears and rescues her, capturing Quasimodo. That knight is none other than the faithless, licentious Captain Phoebus, and it is also Claude who disguises himself, arranges for Phoebus to be stabbed, casts the blame on Esmeralda, and works with the judge to sentence her to death by hanging. Claude believes that faced with such an accusation of murder, Esmeralda will surely accept his rescue and agree to go with him. Yet, unexpectedly, Esmeralda remains cold and refuses to obey. Claude does everything he can and still cannot win her heart. In the end, he screams like a madman, then die. When he cannot possess it, he destroys it all. When he cannot attain it, he annihilates it. If he cannot have her, then no one shall. And that is Claude's true self. It is he who personally sends Esmeralda to the gallows. From priest to devil, Claude's nature is no different from the saying, "A flower blooms with two faces." Life lies somewhere between Buddha and demon. In reality, every person contains black and white, good and evil, opposites that coexist within the same being. Even when everyone around a person believes him to be good, dark thoughts may still lurk in his heart. In the hidden corners of the soul, there are always such shadows: greed, anger, delusion, jealousy, desire, envy. As Moam said, baseness and greatness, wickedness and goodness, hatred and love can all exist in one heart without excluding one another. So when does evil emerge? It appears when a person cannot accept his true self and cannot treat his present life with kindness. In truth, Claude has always lived under the appearance of a guardian of souls, but all of it is illusion. He has long grown sick of a life of endless denial, and within himself he has nurtured more and more repression and ugliness. Especially after meeting Esmeralda, the desire inside him bursts into flame. Claude wants to possess her like a madman, but because of his position, he can only suppress it. Gradually, that hidden love transforms into a dark thought. If I cannot have her, I must destroy her. Behind passionate feelings, there may be a heart of extreme selfishness. Behind a splendid exterior, there may be a pitiable illusion. When a person cannot control the desire to possess, whether the object is love or material things, then sooner or later the veil of hypocrisy will be pierced, and he will be devoured by the darkness rising within him. The one you love may not be beautiful, but must be kind and sincere. The monster of Notre-Dame, Quasimodo, has only one eye, a hunchback, and crooked legs. Because of his terrifying ugliness, he grows up amid the contempt and bullying of others. Society's indifference and human coldness make him cold, harsh, and rough in turn. He is like a walking demon, never treating anyone kindly except his foster father Claude, until the day he meets Esmeralda. At first, Quasimodo kidnaps Esmeralda on Claude's orders. But the kidnapping fails. He is captured, beaten, and sentenced. The next day, Quasimodo is tied up in the square. He is beaten until he is bruised all over, and blood runs across the ground. He whispers hoarsely, "Give me some water." But all he receives is mockery, abuse, and stones hurled at him. Even his foster father Claude turns away coldly and leaves. Only Esmeralda comes forward, disregarding everything that happened before, smiles and pours water into his mouth. The cool stream moistens his bitter throat and warms that lonely, frozen heart. Quasimodo sheds the first tears of his life. From that moment on, in Esmeralda's presence, he is no longer cruel and forbidding, but becomes her loyal protector, guarding her with a pure and faithful heart. When Esmeralda rejects Claude's rescue and is about to be taken to the gallows, Quasimodo seizes the moment when no one is looking, leaps down from the bell tower, defeats the executioner, and carries her away. By the time anyone realizes what has happened, Quasimodo has already returned to the cathedral and proclaimed her under the cathedral's protection. Under the law of that time, Notre-Dame is a sanctuary. A criminal who steps inside may become as sacred as a saint, and no one may touch them. The two are safe, but only on the condition that they never leave or they will be punished. While inside Notre-Dame, Quasimodo accidentally discovers Claude's evil intentions toward Esmeralda. Though he fears his foster father, he still resolves to stand up and say, "Unless I am dead, no one will touch Esmeralda." But even though he risks his life to save Esmeralda, loves her, and cares for her with painstaking devotion, Esmeralda still turns away in fear at the sight of this ugly monster. Then Esmeralda is tricked by Claude Frollo, driven from the cathedral, seized in public, and hanged alive. After Esmeralda's death, Quasimodo kills his foster father with his own hands. Then he goes to the charnel house, embraces her body, and dies with his love. Who could have imagined that one so ugly, so despised and scorned by all, would possess such kindness, sincerity, and purity toward the one he loved? A writer once said, "Within the evil nature of man, there is also goodness and beauty. In polluted and filthy air, there is still the fragrance of flowers. Just as sunlight still breaks through the cracks in black clouds, so too in foul and muddy mire there may bloom a pure white lotus." A person with a cold face, who seems distant and selfish, may still contain within him a gentle and sincere heart. It is just that so often people fixate on the evil and the negativity in him and overlook the halo of goodness. 2 years later, people discovered the skeleton of a deformed man lying beside Esmeralda's skeleton. When they tried to separate them, the two skeletons turned to dust at the same moment. The greatness of the Hunchback of Notre-Dame lies in the fact that it teaches us that beauty seen by the naked eye is not necessarily true beauty. A person with a beautiful face, but full of ugly thoughts, is merely a walking corpse. By contrast, beneath an ugly appearance, there may still dwell a gentle soul and a kind heart. So remember this: the person you love may not need beauty, need not be rich, but must absolutely possess kindness, goodness, and sincerity. Character is always the first thing that should guide our choice of partner, the one who will stand beside us. So in the end, what is true love here? Perhaps you will wonder, however sincere Quasimodo may have been toward Esmeralda, he still comes to a tragic end, just like the wicked Claude. In the end, none of them is able to be with Esmeralda. Yet, if we look at the matter with greater generosity, we need not think so. In truth, the world of the Hunchback of Notre-Dame can be divided into two realms. The first is the earthly realm, the real world in which we ourselves are now living. Here, society is ruled by power and also decaying. It is arranged by human beings through all kinds of order, regulations, and prejudices. The most representative figures in this realm are Claude and Phoebus. As archdeacon, close to the emperor, Claude Frollo is a prominent figure of power, and Captain Phoebus, commander of the king's guards, is full of worldly desires, lust, drunkenness, deceit, and selfishness. When trouble comes, he retreats and submits to fate. He sees no path but to marry within his aristocratic circle. In the novel, when it speaks of Phoebus's marriage, it describes it as a tragic ending. Think about it. Why do so many of us still cry out that life is suffering? Is life truly suffering in itself? Or do we perhaps carry within ourselves the shadows of Claude and Phoebus? The pursuit of power, ambition, selfishness, the naked truth of earthly reality and of human nature in the realm in which we live is something worthy of profound reflection. By contrast, Quasimodo and Esmeralda are beings with the souls of gods, Quasimodo with his sincerity, Esmeralda with her goodness. They do not truly belong to the earthly realm, and therefore they are torn apart by its order and brought to a tragic end. Though they perish in the mortal world, they may still shine in the second realm, the kingdom of gods, whose true name is love. In fact, these two cannot unite in the painful earthly realm. Esmeralda is indeed afraid of Quasimodo, even though he loves her enough to betray everything, his benefactor, even Notre-Dame itself. Yet in the end, they are united in the spiritual world. Therefore, when the gate of that spiritual world opens and the worldly winds blow through it, the bones of those two beings intertwine and turn instantly into dust. Even if the earthly world rejects them, they remain forever a spiritual light, the embodiment of true love. This is something worthy of lifelong cultivation for us humans, if we are to understand what it truly means to love. In the rotten earthly realm, Claude and Phoebus both live in illusion. That emptiness drags them down into the abyss of tragedy. But in the realm of love, the emptiness, the disappearance of Esmeralda and Quasimodo becomes an eternal rising. Their deaths are the end point of the story, yet also the point of departure. The author wrote, "Paris speaks by day, Paris breathes by night." What does Paris sing? It is the sound of the bells of Notre-Dame. But who rang those bells? It was Quasimodo. Those wonderful, beautiful bells soothe the body and lift the soul. This is love, the bell of God for us mortals. Hear it and awaken. Free yourself from ambition and from the selfishness of human society. Only sincerity and kindness can give love its wings. To learn how to love is to learn how to return to the beginning. Qingyuan Xingxi, a great Zen master, once said, "There are 3 stages in a person's life which nearly everyone must pass through. First, one sees mountains as mountains and water as water. Then one sees mountains not as mountains and water not as water. Finally, one sees mountains again as mountains and water again as water." A human being is born without distinctions. When you first begin to perceive the world, mountains are mountains and water is water. But after you have passed through the upheavals of life, what you see may no longer be what you once thought it was. The less willing you are to trust what you have not seen, the more easily you begin to doubt. That means you have begun to discriminate. At that point, mountains are no longer mountains, water is no longer water, and people are no longer simply people. Indeed, there are many people who act like beasts, deceptive, malicious, wildly ambitious, selfish to the extreme. There are many humans who are fragments of Claude Frollo and Phoebus. Only after you have passed through life's storms, tasted all the warmth and coldness of the world, only after you have continued to learn and cultivate yourself, and finally crossed the river of life to return to the point of departure, can you begin to cherish the scene before your eyes. Then mountains are once again mountains, and water is once again water. There is a saying, "May the one who has crossed 1,000 distant places return at last to the soul of a child." These 3 stages of life are equally true of love. Through the truths of love and human nature, the Hunchback of Notre-Dame shows us all 3 of these stages. That is why it cannot be called a mere love story. To understand it is to free yourself from the emptiness of the worldly realm and live at a higher plane, from the energy of love itself. May both you and I take deeply into heart the author's words. Of all God's creatures, the human heart is the one that gives off the greatest light. But sadly, it is also the one that creates the deepest darkness. Is it light or darkness? Beauty or ugliness? I believe you already have your answer. Please do not let the darkness of selfishness, born from lust, desire, greed, anger, and delusion, cloud your eyes, and trap you in illusion, seeing mountains not as mountains and water not as water. The era Hugo described lies hundreds of years behind us. Yet, even in today's society, how many people truly know and understand how to love? The sad truth is that some people go through their whole lives without ever attaining that understanding, forever living in the world of illusions that human society has built. To love is to return to yourself, back to the very starting point, because from the very beginning, you were already an angel capable of ringing the most sacred bell of love. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Give me a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you can catch my latest weekly videos. Once again, thank you all, and see you in the next videos.